Lay out the pieces needed so you can clearly identify them when constructing. Corner bars. They are labelled corner bars. They are exactly the same for the door end and the rear end, so they are both labelled the same. The side corner bars are mitered at one end only, which is the top, and they are square cut at the other. The roof corner bars are mitered at both ends. At one end the bar will have a letter R. The R stands for that it goes to the ridge. A bundle labelled door end, which has your end glazing bars, end diagonals and some smaller supporting angles. This is also labelled door end. This is the door end sill, which on the greenhouse is 6 feet long. You also have a ramp which interlocks with the door end sill. We will come to this later. Instead of having a long door end built-in base, because your greenhouse has the door dropped down to the floor, we have two smaller sections which are going to go either side of the door. They are not handed, so they can go either side of the door. This is labelled door. You have the door panels, which we are not going to build yet, but you also have the door track support, which we do need to build the door. You have two rectangular plates in the fitting pack, which will be used. Neoprene. Next, we need to bead the roof bars. On the roof corner bars, there are 3 places the glazing bead can go. 2 of them are only used, which is the first and third positions. The middle position is only used when constructing a partition. This is the same for all corner bars. The arrowhead of the glazing bead slides into the V grooves of the glazing bars. Using the long nose pliers, drag the neoprene to the end of the bar. Leave a couple of inches hanging over the end of the bar, just in case it has been overstretched. With a pair of scissors or pliers, cut the ends of the neoprene off. Do the same for all corner bars. We need to insert a nut and bolt into each end of all 4 corner bars in the door. A half turn will prevent it from falling out. Do the same at the opposite end and then repeat on the remaining bars. Two short horizontal braces, 1 small door track support, 2 unhanded diagonal braces, 2 glazing bars. The door end glazing bars are 95mm longer than the rear end glazing bars because they go down the side of the base and attach to the bottom sill. On the glazing bar there is a square cut at the bottom and a diagonal mitered cut at the top, 1 left-handed and 1 right-handed. When you bead the door end glazing bars, please pay attention to where the beading is needed. Look at the position of how we have set out the glazing bars. Imagine your door is going to go in between the glazing bars. You need the glazing beading all the way down the outer section of the glazing bar, but you only need approximately 40mm of glazing beading on the inside, the tallest part of the mitre of each glazing bar, which is going to be above the door. Lay out the door end assembly on the floor. Again, you are going to build it from the inside. Your beading channel should be on the outside, and the bolt channel and the fabrication holes are on the inside. Continue to lay out the door end assembly on the floor. The end glazing bars need to be in position so the bolt channel is facing skywards. The glazing bars have a square cut at the bottom and a mitre at the top. The mitre will follow the same angle as the roof corner bar. This is the same for the other glazing bar. Continue to lay the remaining parts out for the door end assembly, which consists of 2 unhanded built-in base sections, 2 diagonal braces, 2 angles with a slot at one end and a hole at the other, and a door track support. When you have laid out the parts in the correct position, for example, the left-hand side will have a square cut at the bottom and a mitre at the top. This principle is the same for all corner bars. To hand the corner bar to the roof, you have a mitre at both ends of the bar. Hold it in position so that the beading channel is on the outside and the bolt channel is on the inside facing you. If you just roll the bar over, you will see a letter R which indicates this goes to the ridge and not the eaves. The bar demonstrated is a left-hand roof corner bar viewed from the inside. If you have a powder-coated greenhouse, you will not have a letter R. So, if you look at the holes along the bar, the middle holes should be nearer to the hole at the ridge than the hole at the eave. Like the rear end, we need 2 eaves gusset plates and 1 ridge gusset plate. Just disregard the casement stay at the moment. Starting at the top of the apex, secure the ridge gusset plates by inserting a bolt through the plates and into the holes punched in the flange of the corner bar, fingertip tight. Now secure the eaves gusset plates the same way as the ridge, but before you place the nut on, get the short horizontal angle and place over the top of the eave gusset plate, fingertip tight. Now do this for both eave corners, making sure the angle is facing the same way, fingertip tight. Short horizontal bar, the door track support and the roof corner bar all attached to the glazing bar, so we need to insert 3 bolts into the channel of the glazing bar. Tighten until it grips the top nut and bolt, and fingertip tight the bottom nut and bolt, leaving the middle nut and bolt out for the moment. Do the same for the other glazing bar. Get the door end sill and the 2 built-in base sections. If you look on the built-in base section, there is a little lip on the underside. We need to engage this to this underneath. The best way to do it, put one inside the other and twist. Do the same for the other built-in base section. Insert a bolt into the end of the built-in base section and 2 bolts into the end of the glazing bar. Line the bottom bolt and the glazing bar with a drilled hole in the sill at the bottom. Place the rectangular plate over the bolts. Tighten the bottom and middle nut. Place one end of the angle over the remaining bolt and put a nut on loosely. Do exactly the same for the other side. Place a bolt through the hole in the corner bar and place the angle over the bolt and put a nut on loosely. Do the same for the opposite side. We now need to tighten the corner up. Push and pull as much as we need to. Pull so the corner is tight. Finger on the bolt underneath and tighten. Moving on to the eaves, again everything is loose. Push and pull until tight. Pull so the corner is tight. Finger on the bolt underneath and tighten. Do the same for the opposite eave. Make sure the two short horizontal bars are in line and tighten up. Tighten all nuts up. Main door track support. One slot and two holes on one side, and on the other side you have two open-ended slots. It is very important to fit this bar in the correct orientation, as it can be fitted two ways. We are looking at the door end from the inside view. The door track is going to fit on the outside using the slot and two holes. We need to make sure, using the pre-inserted bolts, that we fit this bar with the open-ended slots open at the top and not at the bottom. Slide the pre-inserted bolts down so they go into the slot. Don't worry at the moment about the position of the main door track support, it will be adjusted later. Fit the bolts with just half a turn. Corner brackets are approximately 16 inches long. There is a slot at one end and a pair of holes at the other. They are taped together in a pack of 4. A bundle labelled door end, which has your end glazing bars, end diagonals and some smaller supporting angles. Instead of having a long door end built-in base, because your greenhouse has the door dropped down to the floor, we have two smaller sections which are going to go either side of the door. They are not handed, so they can go either side of the door. If you're going to be building your greenhouse onto a hard level surface, you need to insert bolts along the bolt channel of the base. Slide the bolt along the built-in base, quite near to the door posts, and place the angle bracket over the top and fingertip tight with the nut. You also need to insert one at each end for the corner bracket. You have two rectangular plates in the fitting pack which will be used. Next, we need to bead the roof bars. On the roof corner bars, there are 3 places the glazing bead can